After a 2-week break, the LEC is back with BDS in first place. Best of threes are about to start, and the question we're asking, or I'm asking, is can BDS hold on to first? And should we be worried about G2 and Vitality, let alone Mad Lions, who finished second last split and barely made it into group stage this time round? I'm your host, Nikita. This is The Gold Advantage. With me is BMB. How are you feeling after the break? I felt like this. It was only a weekend off, but it feels like it was so long.
So a couple things, right? You mentioned a couple things I want to talk about.
I should hope so, by the way.
Yeah, that's good. By the way, some of the things you mentioned, I'm ready to talk about.
Yeah.
Having a playoff for 9th and 8th place is hilarious, just like inherently. Like, I know you have to do it, but it's just funny.
Sure.
And to your last point about this weird weekend break, right? I'm nervous for the teams that we are so fond of, the underdog teams that we love on this podcast, because it fucks with your flow. Like, they're gonna have a new meta, and it's gonna just be like the champions are gonna be changed, and now you're kind of coming to this, and I'm not ready to say like everything's gonna be different, but like I'm gonna be very cautious this weekend. Best of threes, which is already a different beast than best of ones, and so when you have a best of one, like I think that's when you get a BDS team that gets first place, which we love. There were people on this podcast who picked them to come in last, so for them to come in first, we love that.
Well, no, hold on, no. No one picked them to come in last. No one, like that was last split. Doesn't apply anymore.
Okay, sure.
No one said they would come in last this split.
Yeah, true.
So this split we predicted Excel, and they came in last.
Which that team's a train wreck.
Yeah, and I think my big prediction was that I do not expect Mad Lions to make playoffs, and I suspect Koi won't either. And that's 8th and 7th place, so I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah,
pretty good.
All right, Larry David.
Should we jump into groups?
We have to.
Yeah. Okay. So Group A is Astralis, Fnatic, Vitality, and Mad Lions. Unquestionably the easier group. If I'm BDS who got first place, I'm asking myself why I fought for first place.
How does this happen?
Two teams are going to make it out of each group. Vitality, they're getting out of groups. I don't see them not getting out of groups. I know some people are really worried about their results. The key metric I would give here is if Vitality had beaten BDS, and that game was pretty wild, they would be first. The difference between BDS being first and Vitality being fourth and them swapping was the game in the last week. So I'll just point this out. That's the game that Perks decided to give Gragas a go. And I think it's unanimously considered the worst Gragas anyone has ever seen. And despite that, they actually did okay. Not to take anything away from BDS. It's not at all the situation.
Well,
but it's
no,
just Vitality, I think people are getting overblown on how bad supposedly Vitality is.
Bad, right? When they're tied for, they're tied for second place behind our beloved BDS. And the reality is, when I look across who their 3 losses were to,
3 teams above them.
Astralis, decent team. G2, decent team. And BDS, decent team. So, to your point, as long as they are able to maintain their efficiency at beating teams that are worse than them or like lower than them, which Mad Lions, I don't see a way in the world that Mad Lions beats Vitality the way that they're playing, but don't ever count Mad Lions out, especially when it comes to playoffs.
I just think they're deadly because, as we've discussed, they have Bo, they have Photon, they have Upset. You have 3 threats. Yeah. And you can't, if you focus all your attention on the bot lane to prevent Upset from carrying, you might unleash Photon and Bo. And if you focus on the top lane to make sure Photon doesn't get ahead and destroying that 1v1, then you're leaving it with Upset. And that's actually what T1 does. It's really interesting to see. T1 puts a lot of pressure on the bot lane because they know Carrier and Gumayushi are so good, and it forces other teams to match that because they have to go bottom, because if Guma and Carrier get ahead, the game is over. But then because everyone is focusing on the bot lane, it leaves the top lane completely isolated, and Zeus just dumpsters every single other top laner. And that allows them to get away with the game. So you need to neutralize Zeus whilst also not allowing the bot lane to get too far ahead. And so far, as we've seen, T1 is just destroying everyone. I'm not saying Vitality is doing that, but I am saying that, hey, I think they have the players to potentially.
I'm not sure I'm ready to... Yeah, I'm not going to claim that Vitality is T1, but...
No, but they can play a very similar style. So, look, I'm pretty hype on them. I'm not hype on Mad Lions. I think Mad Lions hitting second place last split was a bit of a fluke. Really, SK should have beaten them. I think Koi should have beaten them.
Yeah.
And so they made it, and they just got dumpstered.
Well, and this is a Mad Lions team who is not trending in the right direction. Yeah, they beat Heretics in a tiebreaker, but
big whoop.
I'm just this Vitality team is just so much more talented right now.
They're really struggling. They've won. I think they've been figured out. The problem is Hylissang and Kazi started off, and we're like, hold on, are they actually matching each other and doing well? And now it's like, nah. Kazi is just killing himself at certain points. Hylissang's completely uncoordinated. We're back to the problems that they had before. And I don't know if you guys have seen the documentary from Mad Lions about last split, but I feel like you're starting to see some of the cracks in Elyoya, and how maddening it must be playing with those teams. So,
well, I guess we should just talk about the lines right now.
Yeah, sure.
Mad Lions are 2.66, Vitality are 1.44, and I love the -1.5 at 2.32. I have a hard time imagining that Vitality even loses one game to these guys.
Yeah, and I think this is another big thing is that like best of threes are a very different beast. And I'll get into this a bit later on, I think, but I'm 100% with you. I think the money line is not good, so 1.44 is not what I want. I will take, but the honestly, -1.5,
but
I think is good.
But 1.44, honest to God, is better than I would think it would be for this team who is tied for almost didn't even make it in, and this Vitality team to our point is actually like pretty good and has just lost to the best teams. This line is so juicy for me. Like, I expected it to be like 1.2, 1.3 when I looked at it. For it to be at 1.44, and for me to get 2.3 odds on a -1.5,
incredible. I love the odds that we're getting.
Great opportunity.
2.3 on -1.5 is phenomenal. And I also actually think just the individual map lines are actually pretty good. You can get them at 1.5, 5.4, 5.8 on map 1, 2, and 3. So I would take individual maps over the money line, the match money line. I would go in and look at each of those individually, and I would throw in the -1.5, and I think that's basically it.
But why even bet on the map 1 and map 2 and you can just put all 4 units on 2.2?
Because as you just said, I'm just hedging just in case. So it's like if there's a terrible draft, I can quickly whack it on the other side, and I don't have to expose myself too much. So it's like there is variance in these things. But yeah, I just think Mad Lions is not looking good. And I don't think Elyoya can be everywhere to do what he needs to be done to do. And the bot lane, you can't win with that bot lane. So I think that's it. Astralis Fnatic. This is an interesting one because congrats to Fnatic.
I agree. I'm so glad you said this is interesting because I find it fascinating.
Congrats to Fnatic. You pulled it off. You made it through. I was really happy to see Oscarinen have a good third week. He got a bunch of kills. He was playing way more confident, much more aggressive. So I'm really happy to see that because I did this short about it where, it was unfair the position he was being put in, and I think a bit too early. And he seems to have gained his confidence and come back, which is nice. I'm now sorry about it's reflecting off a piece of glass and it's like blinding me in my eye right now.
It is blinding you. I noticed. I was like, what is this?
I know what's going on here. Just the holy light of Fnatic coming in. I don't think Fnatic will pull it off, but they have the experience to. I just think at the end of the day,
they have the talent.
Strass has really come out and like.
And we had a great little preview of this match on the last day, Monday. And so, to me, this is a game where the 2-week break hurts Astralis more than it hurts Fnatic, right? I think Fnatic as a team, with their talent, with their experience, can watch that film, learn some things, and really kind of come in. And so, look, honest to God, like, I think Astralis is the better team, but this is a Fnatic team that beat G2 and has been playing quite well recently. And so, for me, these odds, and by the way, the sportsbook feels this way too. You only have 2.09 on Fnatic and a 1.69, basically 1.7 for Astralis. they acknowledge that this is going to be a bit more of a toss-up than it should be, given how good Astralis has been all split, and even going back to the winter split. I definitely think Fnatic can win this. I don't think my favorite bet on this one, honestly, because I don't know who's going to win. I really like the over 2.5 at 1.98, and that is not to disparage Astralis in any way, shape, or form. I just think that this break, Fnatic's ability to practice some more, is better for them than it is for Astralis. When you're a team that's not used to success and you're kind of firing on all cylinders, you don't want to break. You don't want like a halftime.
I don't disagree with that, but I think the thing there is, I think there's a little bit over indexing towards Fnatic. Fnatic historically has not been doing well. They haven't been doing the best.
Yep.
I think they have had some success in the recent weeks, and it's been good to see. There are questions around last week's success. They weren't playing on stage, and there's a big difference there. So they were playing in studio, but not on stage. I have a big question. It's like, can Oscar Rinnan play on stage? Will he have that same confidence in front of a crowd, in front of people watching? It's a big thing. And then I also think it's quite hard to prepare against Astralis, mainly because of leader. Like 113 and leader have such a good synergy and coordination, which is phenomenal. They made it through, they've done well, and I think they built on that. I think they've really understood, like, hey, these are our strengths. This is how our mid lane jungle duo is really strong. Our bot lane is very solid. Finn is playing well. And all of those things together, I've not been impressed by Humanoid. I think Razork's mental game is on a knife's edge. It's trending in the right direction, but I'm pretty confident, like, this is the best outcome that Astralis could have asked for. Like, this is the weakest group. They have the best chance to beat Mad Lions and Fnatic. So it's really, in a way, I think what I wrote down in my notes is that this is the group, it's theirs for the take.
Yes.
Like, if Astralis wants this, if they want to be top 4, if they want to improve and they want to continue this journey, it's theirs for the taking, and it's
so
right
what I would
there.
say is, whether or not Astralis wins this first one, I don't really care. I still think they'll make it, right? So I think if Mad Lions and Astralis lose, I think Astralis destroys Mad Lions. And then when Vitality and Fnatic would play, I think Vitality wins. So Astralis is going to get a second chance at Fnatic, and I'm guessing that they would beat them in the second try. And so I'm still confident that Astralis and Vitality will make it out. All I'm saying is,
you just are not sure about this
first round. I kind of you basically can get the over 2.5 at 2.0 odds, and it feels like it's going to be going that way based on how Fnatic's been playing.
I lean towards Astralis. I think it's quite hard to ban them out. They're a team, they share similarities to BDS in that leader has quite an unusual champion pool. He can pop some weird things out. We've seen the Aurelia, we've seen the Zed, and this is not him forcing it. These are appropriate picks, and they're quite difficult to... You don't necessarily have an understanding of how that matchup might be, and I think he has a very strong understanding. So do you then expend bans on him, or do you do it for the rest of the team? It creates a very interesting dynamic in the picks and bans. So for me, this is a map-by-map basis. I agree with you. Fnatic could have come out of this, and like they have the experience, so are they going to come out and do it? Maybe, maybe not. But right now I have 1.75 on each map for Astralis. I think I'll sit back and kind of watch how the games go. What draft are we getting? How does Fnatic really look? If they get dumpstered game 1, I'm like, great, I'll grab map 1, 2, all of that type of stuff. I don't mind. I'm not against the over 2.5 maps. I think that's it's a good one. It's a nice, like, it's a safe one. I mean, what I like is it's even odds. It's 1.85 on both of them, and I definitely think taking the over, you can take the over 2.5 and then look to bet Astralis game map 1, map 2 on the money line. And, you know, you have a little bit of a hedge there, so you're looking to make a bit of a smaller profit. But that's kind of my takeaway from them. Group B is, you have this down in our notes as a group of death, and I totally agree here. This is, BDS is kicking themselves for finishing in first because you're matched up against SK. You have G2 on the other side and Koi. You know, I think I'll start with Koi in that they've looked pretty weak, but it's still Koi. Yeah. It's still Koi. And someone made a great point. I think it was I'll Dominate or I don't know, Thorin, one of them. Anyway, they were just saying it. They were like, I think it was Thorin. And he's like, when they look good, you should be worried. When they look bad, you kind of...
probably still be worried.
You're going to be surprised because they tend to come out and they have such a solid floor. It's hard for me to believe that like Comp and Trimby are really the worst bot lane or playing this bad. Trimby has been playing really bad, but will he continue this? You just know that Koi have that experience. There's a reason why they've essentially been top 2, top 3 for now, like for 2.5 years. You can't keep them down.
And
they know how they want to play. They know how they win. And in a way, they're a team. I think League of Legends is very much like tennis. And you have enforced errors and unenforced errors. And Koi is a team that plays their way so disciplined, maybe somewhat boring, and they just wait for an unenforced error. And then the second you make it, they're great, we're going to take advantage of that. And we're going to take advantage of that. And suddenly, in a best of 3, I think best of 1s, it's not so good for them. But over the course of a best of 3, if they match up against an SK or a BDS, I start to get a little bit worried about these teams that are less experienced, especially a BDS. Don't forget,
they have to play G2 first. This is a G2 team that they beat.
Oh, yeah. G2 wins.
Not so fast, my friend. Koi beat G2 in the best of 1.
Easy. Yeah, that's fine. In what was like arguably the worst game out of G2.
But this is a G2 team that has already secured MSI. So I could see them try, again, like, maybe not this one, but like trying out a couple different matchups or a couple different formations or pairings to... Okay.
They're going to win. G2 is still the best team here.
The odds would agree with you. They are a 1.25 versus a 3.68.
Yeah, and look, I would take the -1.5 at 1.8 if you're really looking for a bet. Really, this is not a series I'm betting on. I'm watching the series. If Koi gets a really good draft, I will bet on them for the potential upset. Otherwise, there are just no bets of value on this series. Koi play too controlled to have kill spreads.
So you've already written off Koi. So Koi's in the losers bracket. BDS SK.
Yeah, Koi's in the losers bracket. G2 is is just too good. They are just like they and like the thing is across the board they play so many different things. I don't think best of 1s is indicative of that.
They came in third
and
place.
I don't think they're going to get knocked out in the best of 3. Yeah, and I don't think they're going to get knocked out of the best of 3 group. So
you think they're top 4?
It's very hard not to see them come first or second in this group and make it to best of 5s. That leads us to like BDS and SK, and we talked about BDS, how good they are. So great.
3-game win streak. Have lost to two teams. Can you name those 2 teams?
BDS has pulled out some. Who did they lose to? It was one really weak one.
It's not that weak.
Much. Was it like XL? Heretics or XL, something like that, wasn't it?
G2
Mad Lions
and SK.
Oh, okay.
Relevant.
Interesting.
Very relevant.
Very relevant. I think playing against BDS is very hard because Adam, like Leader, has these weird pocket picks where he'll pull out a Darius and you're like, lol, I'm going to smash you.
Lol.
And because you're like, I'll just take range and I'm going to beat you. Except that he has such a fundamental understanding of the champion that he suddenly turns it around and it's so hard. BDS is probably the team that's impressed me the most. They understand their strengths. They play to their strengths, which is the top lane and bot lane. They're very good at early game, and I think previously they struggled to convert that. Now they're doing a really good job at converting that into wins. Adam creates great pressure. He draws a lot of attention. The bot lane then starts to take advantage of that. Crowny and so on do really well, and they do what? Great. The thing I am always concerned about, and this is maybe I'm looking ahead. Let's say they win and they play G2, or they lose and they play Koi, or however. My concern is when they play against a G2 or a Koi, we have BDS moments. We have the BDS moments where something goes wrong.
To give them credit, that is very historically true.
Yeah.
But they came in first place this time. They didn't do any BDS moments against any team except for SK.
I think it's a lot easier to do it.
Fair enough.
I think I agree. I think best of ones is better for them. I think when you have a best of 3, it's harder to not have those BDS
they get
moments.
Overly aggressive, and then
to
they
a
get
2-1.
exposed, and then they get turned, and the next thing you know, the team's getting a Baron and steamrolling you. I get it.
And then you have the next game, and you're a little bit shaken by that.
Now you're like, well, don't do that again. So now you start playing a little bit more tense. I get it. With all that said, this is an SK team that went 0-3 their last weekend, whereas BDS went 3-0. This is a team that SK started off really strong on the split, hasn't been playing as well. And so my perspective on this, I'm looking at the odds. I'm loving a BDS -1.5. 2.87. Phenomenal. The best team in the split.
I think that's great. I also just like the money line, 1.6.
It's almost 1.6 is it's almost 1.7, 1.68.
I think these two teams have basically had a reverse trajectory. SK made it to playoffs last split. I think they've gotten worse. I think they've kind of lost a bit of a beat. Maybe they're resting on their laurels a little bit too much. They're just not as crisp. And I went and looked at some of the stats, and if you look at their early game rating, mid to late game ratings, both of them have dropped. They used to have a phenomenal mid to late game rating in winter split, so last split. That's dropped pretty significantly. They're sitting in middle of the pack, which is 5th place. And that's where they are, and I feel like that's actually where they deserve to be. I think BDS beats them.
I do too.
I agree with you. -1.5, or you take the money lines. Individual map lines are going to be 1.75, so that's really good. I think you grab those. I think they go forward, and then G2 BDS face off. I think G2 at the moment wins.
Well, we'll be back for that. The bet I want to place, -1.5 for Vitality, -1.5 for BDS, -1.5 for G2.
Yep.
12.3.
All right. That's
guaranteed.
It's
Guaranteed.
easy money. Why would anyone doubt that?
Not bad. It's 12.3. It's guaranteed. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. Like I said, I think SK is getting worse, unfortunately. This is not, I think this is BDS's opportunity to jump up. It is my fear, and this is really my biggest fear, is I think G2 beats BDS, and then BDS has to face off against a Koi. And that is what I get worried about. And it's particularly those two, because BDS likes to play aggressive. They're very interesting.
I got news for you, brother. I got news for you.
Exciting.
BDS is beating G2.
You think BDS is beating G2? So
no problem.
There's no problem.
That's their chance. They should have beat them last time. They threw.
I think the problem is like best of threes.
I'm telling you,
benefit teams like Koi, and I think they are a disadvantage for teams like BDS. I think it flips it there. Anyway, we'll find out. We'll find out this weekend.
I'm excited for it.
God, I love this new format.
It's great. It's great.
I just love it. I really, really love it. And I think you should be betting individual map lines on top of -0.5s, because it just gives you an opportunity to either hedge or make even more money. Yes, you could just throw it all on one, but at least this is maybe they win one, lose one, then win another, and you can make it a little bit more there. So maybe there's a little oopsie at the beginning where there has been, and you get like some ridiculous odds on it, and you can still take the draft. So take that. We will take your likes and subscribes. You'll find the links down below. If you want to join our Discord, please leave a comment and let us know, who do you think is getting out of Group A, who do you think is getting out of Group B, and whether you agree with us or disagree with us. And otherwise, we will see you for the LCS episode coming out soon. Bye, everyone.
Toodaloo.